Upstairs in Headhunters, we've quite a variety of model railway layouts. These are very popular with both children and indeed many of the adults who come up here. We've a selection of layouts and a selection of gauges. Round the walls here is a large O gauge model set. It doesn't cover a particular area. It's meant to be a general scenario of railway settings. For example, down here we have a harbour setting where trains would come in and ships would unload, the wagons would be loaded up, and it's quite an industrial setting. Over here at this side we have an industrial town and city. The suburban end with its streets of houses and shops. Further over here, the factories and the industrial areas where, of course, a lot of the goods would have originated from. Most kids begin their model railway life with an O gauge layout. In the centre here, we have one of those layouts, perhaps a bit more elaborate than what the normal child would begin with, but similar. At one end here there's a scrappage area where old locomotives are reduced from being locomotives to being scrap. Unfortunately, this was the reality, particularly in the late 50s and 60s in both Northern Ireland and in Britain. In the centre here there's a turntable area where locomotives can be turned to face the opposite direction. We have an industrial site here and here because obviously that was the lifeblood of the railways, providing them with the goods traffic for which the railways were famous. There's an engine shed up at this end, a two-road engine shed and passenger station. Here we have an express locomotive pulling a Pullman train. For Pullman trains, depending on the class, you paid an extra supplement because of the luxury involved, usually with tables and lamps and curtains and all sorts of refinements which you didn't have on the normal passenger train. All in all, it's quite a nice little setting, but in the gauge which most people recognise. One particular layout which actually is specific is this miniature version of part of Omagh station. In the corner here you have a section of what was called Omagh General, or the passenger station in Omagh, which many Enniskillen people would remember as the place where they went to get the train to Belfast after the Enniskillen line closed. In the background you've got the large goods depot which was situated on the Dromore Road. The layout itself is sited in the UTA era, where you can see UTA double-decker buses parked in the yard. So this would be somewhere between 1958 and the closure of the railway on the 14th of February 1965. Of interest too is the bread traffic which the Great Northern Railway fostered. After the war, the railway came up with the idea of containerising bread, and here you can see bread containers from Inglis and Brewster's Bakery. The bread would have been obviously baked in the bakery overnight, loaded into the containers, and I believe each container held 24 dozen loaves, put on trains from Belfast and delivered to every town and even village in the province. The container would be left on the wagon in the goods depot at the town or village. The local bread man from Inglis or Hughes would arrive, open it up, load up his bread van, and then it would be delivered to shops and houses. It was quite a process and a good example of the railway modernising before the end. And as you can see from the number of goods wagons here, goods traffic on the Derry Road through Omagh was still very healthy right up until the closure in 1965.